So we're here this morning brewing like a Czech style pale lager, and been doing a lot of reading on ferulic acid rest and the advantage it has with a wheat style beer and a Weiss beer, Hefeweizen style beers, and we want to experiment to see if it's going to have an effect on a Pilsner. So we are brewing Canadian Pilsner malt Carafoam Munich 2 malt base, and we're using Lotus hops, so it's a orange berry, tropical fruit, vanilla, very aroma based hop, 15.2 alpha acids, grown in the States, in the US, and so we're really looking forward to experimenting with that. And I think the ferulic rest will add some phenols and character to the beer that will help actually balance out the beer in the end. And so we're gonna mash in between 40 and 50 Celsius, ideally like 43 is our mash temperature for 15 minutes, and then we'll rise it up to 65 for a 35-minute saccharification rest, and then we'll mash out at 76 Celsius. So yeah, we're gonna mash in, we're gonna hold the pH high, and then once the ferulic acid rest is done, then we'll add our brewing salts to adjust our pH down to 5.2 to 5.3. So you know, when we're just starting to mash in here, and we got our pale malt, so you know, you gotta have fun on a brew day, and you gotta make it rain a little bit, so you gotta have fun with it. This might take a while, but at least you're gonna have fun with it.
Yeah.
And one of my tips, or one of my tricks for mashing in, because it's so dusty, you just don't breathe. Just trying to create some turbulent flow. Good flow.
So are we all mashed in?
We are all mashed in. Just want to kind of highlight and show you something awesome that we really love about the system. This is our mash filter, our lauter filter, and there's over 1,200 laser cut perforations in the mash plate. It's just absolutely amazing that we can have the flow in our mash tun just be so fast that we don't even get a stuck mash. Everything just works so efficiently and smoothly, and we know we're getting really good temperature from top to bottom through the whole system. So there's just something really exciting about the Bräu 3-vessel HERMS system. So we've just come to the end of our ferulic acid rest, and I'm gonna add our brewing salts. I've weighed out a mix of calcium chloride and gypsum. We want calcium chloride to help bring out the hop character and balance the pH, and the gypsum as well to help balance the pH. We'll just add it in. As we're recirculating the mash, it's going to distribute the salts throughout the mash. I'm not worried about it. I don't need to stir. And we are brewing a 15-gallon batch, so for someone brewing a 5-gallon batch, that might look like a lot of salt, but it's not. There we go, and now we're just heating up for our saccharification rest at 65 Celsius on our panel. So I'll just go to the mash schedule here, or actually just on the main screen it shows our mash is on step 2, it's heating to 65, we have our HLT set to 68, so it'll start heating, and as we're recirculating through the HERMS system, it will be able to manage our mash steps. All right, so we're coming to the end of our mash out cycle. So I'm going to turn off the pumps, move some valves, move a couple hoses, install our sparge arm, and I'm just gonna talk us through it as we go. So over on our control panel, we can turn the wort pump off, water pump off, and close the valve so I just don't spill water or wort everywhere. I've got my hose already set up to go into my inlet of the Whirlpool on the kettle. So a quick little transfer of that. Then I can try not to spill it everywhere. Where does the gasket go? Attaching the quick connect to the sparge arm. I always like to hold the clamps with one hand and tighten with the other hand. Just makes it a little bit easier all around. And I also try to make sure you can adjust once you're flowing, but it's good to have the the sprayer facing down right away. All right, and now I'm moving from the HLT to the sparge arm, and we can start opening some valves. Whoa.
So what are we doing there?
So I'm just limiting the flow coming in because I don't want to suck the grain bed down too fast before I start sparging. So I can limit it on the exit of the pump and also on the entrance to the kettle.
And this is just a gravity.
No, I have the pump running.
You do.
So yeah, just getting the sparge arm set up here and getting a nice even flow between the flow going from the mash tun to the kettle and the flow of our sparge liquid. So I've got it sitting right at like 12 gallons now. I can let it drop down to about 11 and then temper the flow so it's even. All right, so we've got our wort in the kettle. And today we're doing a 90-minute boil for this Pilsner. Even though we have well-modified grain, we don't want to risk anything with the wort to DMS. We don't like vegetal cooked corn. We just don't like that flavor in the beer. I want to be able to maximize the complexity of the beer, the yeast-derived product and flavors and aromas, and then the hops as well. And today we're using 2019 Lotus hops, 15.2% alpha acid, which is really awesome. A little higher alpha acids will give us, well, we don't have to use as much hops. So we're gonna add the hops here. These hops are really, the flavors and aromas on them are listed as berry, tropical fruit, vanilla, and orange. And I think that'll go really well if we get a little bit of phenolic activity out of the ferulic acid rest that we did. I think it'll balance out really nicely with our yeast profile. All right, so we're just coming to the end of the boil here with our Pilsner, and we're gonna shut off the boil, add some hops, and then we're gonna run our sterilization cycle through our hoses and heat exchanger and pump. So let's get this started. To the control panel, just gonna click off our boil. I'm going to add my hops. Lotus, just like we use for our boil hop. We're using it for our Whirlpool hop. Oh yeah. Oh, it smells so good, so danky. And then we're just gonna basically open up and get some flow. And air bubbles. Air bubbles is good. I've just got to try to get some of the air bubbles out of the line here. All right. And we're just going to turn on the wort pump. Whoa. A little volatile there as it first started up, but it's spinning now. We're opening the bottom of the kettle, turning on the water, and then turning on the wort pump. And I'm gonna I have to limit it over here.
So what are you doing there?
I'm limiting the flow. I can only limit the flow so much going into the fermenter, so I'm limiting the flow coming out of the pump as to not cavitate the pump. And then we're just going to maintain watching the temperature drop down to pitching at 18 Celsius. So we were up over 60 there when we first started. Now we're dropping 42, 41. It'll take a minute or two to drop to cast out temperature. We've come to the end of the brew day today, and we've got all the wort in the fermenter. This little beauty is 30 gallons, and we brewed 15 today. We put in 58 liters into it today. It's a jacketed conical fermenter, so we run cold water from the tap, and it's kind of hidden. We have a solenoid just in the back here, and that is actuated by the control panel that we had kind of reviewed a few times earlier. So on our fermentation graph here, we have the fermenter. I have it set at 18 degrees. It's currently at 17, so get it down there a little bit, so it's give it an opportunity to free rise as fermentation begins. I've pitched in a few packs of Lallemand Colne yeast, which is similar to K97 if you use the Fermentus dry yeast. And yeah, it's a beautiful little thing. I really like that it's got a big 4-inch tri-clamp fitting on the top, so it's easy for me to pitch yeast out of the Erlenmeyer flask, and it's still got space for the airlock. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how this turns out. I gotta say, the efficiency of the panel with the 3-vessel brewing system all cleaned up now, but I was really impressed with the mash efficiency, and I had mentioned before about the mash plate, about the mash filter, and all the laser perforations that are in it. And I think this is really what's giving us some great efficiency. So the hole in the middle is obviously for our drain, and yeah, it just does an amazing job. Considering that we're recirculating the mash for the full 60 minutes, we don't have any problems with the grain bed compressing or just like sucking down and having no flow. We have great flow the whole hour, and all the way through sparging and casting into the kettle. So yeah, the system's working really efficiently. It's just small tweaks. We used a bit bigger of a pump today. for our wort pump. We kept the water pump on the small size, so that was an interesting challenge, like trying to adjust with the temperature of the cast out to the fermenter. But I think it's a good learning curve because we could use the jacket of the fermenter to help bring down that temperature. We were kind of casting out temperature in the fermenter as we were going in was about 24 Celsius. So just using that jacket just to bring that temperature down a little bit more was really efficient.